Hello everyone. Now we are going to discuss about what is Docker. So as this training is all about Kubernetes, we will be using Docker as a container runtime. Okay. So I will give you an overview, or we will go through that what is Docker, uh, which we need the understanding Docker. What is Docker? Then we will do the Docker setup. We will try to understand what is architecture and main component of Docker and basic command line. We'll check it out online for Docker. But we will not be covering the Docker file, Docker build process, and creating the private registry in this training. All this will be, I will share the documentation with you. You can go through and understand. Okay. But for Kubernetes training, we will be using Docker as a runtime, and we have multiple runtimes available. As I told that container runtime, there are multiple container runtimes are available. But let's take the example of Docker only. Okay. So because that's a widely used, a lot of vendors are using it. Correct. So if I say simple terms, what is Docker? So first of all, Docker is an open source platform, okay, that enables containerization, okay, a method which package the application and then run that application with their dependencies. So Docker has two things. One, it can the application package the application in image format, in image format image format, and that image it can run, image can be run as container. So both the things Docker is providing us. Okay. So Docker basically is a platform. Okay. So when the application is packaged with its system tools, dependency, library, and it is not running, it is called image. Okay. It is called image. When the application is running, that application is the image format and it is running, it is called container. For running the container, you need the container runtime. So Docker as a platform is providing both the things to us, building capability and running capability. Now, what is the core component of Docker? Docker core component is Docker engine. Okay. Docker core component is Docker engine. That is the core component. It is responsible for building process and running process. So basically it can build in the image as well and run that image as well. When it build the application in the, that is called in the image format, that is called image, and when then it runs that image, it is called container. The Docker engine has mainly two components. One is Docker daemon, Docker daemon. You can say Docker D, and second one is Docker client, Docker client. So we'll see that what is Docker daemon. Docker daemon is basically a background process which is running on your host. It listen for Docker API request and manage the Docker the container lifecycle. What is container lifecycle? Start the container, stop the container. These all comes under container lifecycle. So basically, Docker daemon interacts directly with your OS, okay, and orchestrate the creation, execution, and termination of the container. So Docker daemon is the main process which is interacting with the API, okay, which is interacting with the Docker API. Listen for Docker API, interacting with Docker API. All this thing Docker daemon take care of. Second is Docker client. Okay, what is Docker client? Docker client is a command line utility that allows you to that allows the end user, like we will be using Docker command, Docker push, Docker run. So that is Docker client. Using Docker client, we are interacting with the Docker daemon. Okay, so basically the using the command line, I am sending the request to the Docker client and the Docker daemon, and Docker daemon will send the request to the Docker API. Okay, so basically if I want to build the image, I will be using Docker CLI. The command will be Docker, and I'll say Docker build. And this command will go to the Docker daemon. daemon, and then it will go to the API. Okay, same way I want to run an image, docker run command I will run, that will go to the docker d, docker daemon, and then it will go to the API. Okay, this is the way the things are being designed. Now next section we will go through the main architecture where I will say what is docker d, docker daemon, docker image, docker registry. I'll give you a overview about all of this component, and after that we'll do the, I'll go through the setup instruction, how to set up the docker environment on Ubuntu 22.04 and server. And post that, what we will do is we'll run 2-3 commands like docker pull, docker run, I'll show it, and docker images, docker ps, all this command I will show you. And these are the other two sessions. After that we will go to the Kubernetes, because we just need to get an overview what is image, what is container, and what is container lifecycle. Okay, thank you.